Hi, I'm Tammy Arender, and I'm here with Chuck Neparella, the CEO of TCA Cellular. And Chuck, I've had an opportunity to interview some of your patients and hear some incredible success stories with adult stem cell therapy. Give us a little preview of what we're going to see and hear over the next half hour.
Thanks, Tammy. As you already know, we're passionate about what we do here at TCA Cellular. The entire team is an unbelievable group of people to work with, starting with, as you know, Gabriel Lasala, who's our founder and president, who happens to be an interventional cardiologist, Dr. Jose Miguel, who's a Chilean-trained PhD research scientist, and he's really kind of the intellectual power behind all of this whole magic of adult stem cells. We're going to talk a little bit about the FDA and the challenge of moving through their clinical trials towards commercialization, which is a nice way of saying we can start to treat patients on a massive scale. Right now, it's only on a very limited basis.
I know clinical trials can be very expensive.
They're unbelievably expensive. We've done some research on that, and there's a gentleman who teaches the fall FDA drug law course at Harvard, and his recent textbook mentions that taking a new drug or biological or molecule from start to finish takes about $1 billion. So it really makes it hard for a small company like us, we are privately held. We're not, as someone would say, one of the big boys in the world of pharmacology. It's a harder mountain to climb, but we believe the science we have is very powerful, and so we're going to climb that mountain.
And what I've heard from these patients is almost a paradigm shift in modern medicine.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. It really is. This is not just a new discovery of a new drug or biological. There's no doubt in the global scientific community, the promise of stem cells is looked on with a lot of hope, and it will absolutely change the way medicine is done at the bedside in the next 10 to 20 years. There's no doubt about that. What's different about us is we do not do embryonic stem cell research. We have focused completely and totally on adult stem cells. We believe those cells are a little more stable, and although from a scientific standpoint, there will be a time we think that embryonic stem cells will be useful. Right now, it looks to us from a global standpoint that it's the adult stem cells that are showing the most promise in human studies.
Thank you, Chuck. Well, stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to introduce you to our lead research scientist, Dr. Jose Miguel.
We live in exciting times where medical researchers are utilizing adult stem cells to repair and regenerate damaged tissue. The bioethical debate surrounding embryonic stem cells can be put to rest with the advancement and success of adult stem cells. Regenerative medicine is producing life-saving results. Adult stem cells act as a repair system for damaged tissue. By retrieving adult stem cells, multiplying them, and infusing them into damaged areas, they go to work to repair damaged tissue. Clinical trials are underway using the tremendous biological power of adult stem cells, and TCA cellular therapy is leading the way in some of these important advancements. The preliminary results are astonishing for difficult-to-treat diseases, including heart disease, ischemia of the legs, spinal cord injury, diabetes, Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's disease, multiple sclerosis, stroke, and even osteoarthritis. The list will continue to grow as this groundbreaking research continues.
As a scientist, you must be proud to be on the cutting edge of what looks like will be a transformation in the way people are treated with stem cells. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that, yeah, we are at the very beginning of this thing. I would like to say that the use of stem cells in clinical trials started no more than 6 or 7 years ago. And all the clinical trials, at least in this country, they are what we call phase 1 or phase 2. That means we need to show that the cell that we are going to use will not damage the patient. Never mind if the cell is doing nothing, okay? But the main thing is safety. The patient is safe. And the second thing, then you move into what we call phase 2, where in addition to safety, you need to prove that the system that you are using works. And we would like to translate that, what is happening from a cellular point of view, to translate that thing into a person. So this is why we start to do a clinical trial. So from that point of view, theoretically, we were very sure that the thing will work. But that is quite different when you see the patient, come in very happy. Do you see that the heart is working fine, ejection fraction is going up again, and the quality of life, that is very important, of the patient improves.
We interviewed patients who gave us some glowing and positive testimonies about how adult stem cells have transformed and changed their lives. Each one had incredible success stories to tell us. If they were in this room right now, what would you tell them?
Well, the first thing is just to thank them for the confidence that they gave us, to start something that was very new.
So what is your outlook for adult stem cell research and therapy?
It's a new thing, and the new thing started probably 5 or 6 years ago, and this is the result of the work of many, many people working at the cellular level, the molecular level, and doing animal studies.
Dr. LaSala, thank you so much for meeting with us today. Dr. LaSala, what is regenerative medicine?
Regenerative medicine is something very new. It's completely different to traditional medicine. With traditional medicine, what we used to do is we used to cut off tissue, cut off cancers, cut off disease, and try to use drugs to kill cells and to kill things that were harmful to our bodies. Regenerative medicine is just the opposite. It's to recreate cells, to recreate tissues by allowing cells to multiply and building new tissues and new organs.
What's the difference between adult stem cells and embryonic stem cells?
An embryonic stem cell is a much earlier cell. It's much more unpredictable. It's much more difficult to control. So you put an embryonic stem cell in a patient, and it's very hard to predict when that cell will stop growing and what that cell will become. When you take adult stem cells, they're much more predictable because they have differentiated at different stages, in more mature cells. You know that one particular type of adult stem cells can become bone or cartilage or connective tissue, but it's not going to become a neuron or hair. At the same time, an adult stem cells that is taken from the blood will become a blood cell, but it's not going to become bone. With embryonic stem cell, this is what you cannot predict. You take a cell that is so early in the stage of development that it's extremely difficult to predict what it's going to become. It's something that nobody expected, many don't understand, but it's going to become the future of medicine.
At TCA Cellular, you've made the clinical and scientific decision to only work with adult stem cells. Is that because they're easier to work with?
Because the cells are reliable, they're predictable, and because there is an ethical issue too. And that's what we chose to do, and this is the cells that we believe are the best cells to use.
As an interventional cardiologist, which sounds like it would be a far cry from a stem cell researcher, what was your inspiration to get involved in stem cell research and start a research company at TCA Cellular?
I realized at that time that the future of medicine was not to kill tissue, to kill cells, but to build cells and to build tissue.
Dr. Miguel has been a partner almost from the beginning. So how did you come to find someone so renowned in this industry?
Dr. Miguel was the first doctor who discovered mesenchymal stem cells in umbilical cord blood. Dr. Miguel was the first doctor who created a bone marrow transplant program in South America. Dr. Miguel was, to me, at the top of the world, and I couldn't believe, after talking to him and trying to convince him to come here, that he said yes.
As you have seen, the potential and promise that adult stem cell research brings to just the few people that we've met today need your help. Not everyone responds in such a miraculous way, but many do. Moving through FDA clinical approval takes a tremendous amount of time, talent, and capital. Conducting ongoing research is also very expensive. Your help and support is critical. The good work being done by the research team at TCA Cellular Therapy can continue, but only with your help and support. Please call 888-272-3385 and help keep this important research moving forward. Bill Edgett and his wife Peggy spent time telling me their journey. Bill underwent open heart surgery, triple bypass surgery. He had experienced a number of heart attacks and corrective medical procedures, including stents and balloon procedures to open up closed arteries. Eventually, Bill's condition landed him in a hospital with an extended stay and extended physical rehabilitation. He and his wife Peggy struggled with facing what looked like a major and permanent lifestyle change. Bill's activities were severely limited. Walking upstairs and simple daily tasks had now become a struggle to complete. Even enjoying his dog Jake had become a challenge. Bill's story once again illustrates the regenerative power that receiving adult stem cell treatment may provide. So what have Dr. Mengel and Dr. LaSala meant to you? What has stem cell therapy meant to you?
If it wasn't for the genius of Dr. Mengel with stem cell research and the God-given ability of Dr. LaSala to place those stem cells where they needed to be, I would not be here today talking with you. It was, it's been a life experience. It's been a real long, hard road to get myself back to this point. Without the stem cells, I wouldn't be here.
Did Dr. LaSala ever give you an indication that your recovery would be this dramatic?
I didn't know what to expect with the therapy. I really didn't.
What would you say to someone that might tell you that stem cell research hasn't been verified yet and that we might be 5 to 10 years away from a workable treatment?
Dr. LaSala told me a couple of years back that he felt like stem cells would be as large a benefit to mankind as penicillin was in the 1930s. And I truly believe it.
Other physicians have seen you go through stem cell therapy. They are not stem cell researchers, but they've seen you go through the rehab, the pneumonia. What do they say about your recovery now?
My illness was so severe that they gave me a very low chance of survival at the time. And both of them were really amazed that I came through this thing in one piece. And seeing them later, were just shocked that I had improved so much.
So you entrusted your life to Dr. LaSala. I mean, you've put your life in his hands and you feel like he's made a difference.
Yes, and I was the first person in this country to have stem cells injected in my heart. So it was a big step for me. And I think it was, I know it was a big step for my family. But without it, I wouldn't be here. This is my wife, Peggy. This is the person that stayed by my bedside for 3 months and did not leave at all.
If someone told you that stem cell treatment was a bunch of marketing baloney, what advice would you give people considering stem cell treatment?
Look at my husband. That's all I have to say.
Yep.
You saw him before and you see him today. It's a miracle.
When Bill went to get the stem cell injection, were you expecting anything at all?
Yeah, I was praying for the best, and I was hoping that everything that you read about stem cells was going to happen to Bill, and it did. within 2 weeks from being able to walk up the steps to our house by himself was in itself a miracle to us, that he didn't have to take a wheelchair.
Peggy, what has Bill's recovery meant to you and your family?
Everything. I don't know how else to say that. I truly believe it was the stem cells and his will to live too. And everybody around him, his will to live. I think all that helped, but the stem cells definitely showed a quick improvement.
While listening to the patients who have been affected by adult stem cells, I began to realize how many people I've known who have had similar life challenges. Family and friends who have faced life-changing healthcare issues. You probably have friends and family with similar challenges. You may even face similar challenges yourself. It just might be that if this important research can continue, our own friends and families may be touched by the power of adult stem cells. Now, not everyone responds to the therapy in such dramatic fashion, but many do. Please help. Please call 888-272-3385. When you meet Rodney Schoenhardt, you meet a person who wants to tell everyone he knows his stem cell story. Rodney suffered from critical limb ischemia. Critical limb ischemia, or CLI, is a severe obstruction of the arteries which seriously decrease blood flow to the extremities, hands, feet, and legs, and has progressed to the point of severe pain and even open sores or dying tissue. Critical limb ischemia is often present in individuals with severe peripheral artery disease, or PAD. The pain caused by SLI can wake a person up at night. Dr. LaSala has said that CLI pain can become so intolerable that it can be one of the indicators for amputation. This is Rodney's stem cell story. Severe leg pain, unable to walk, tissue that is turning black from the lack of life-providing blood and oxygen to his legs. Rodney's condition was so severe that he was told that he may in fact need to face the difficult decision of amputation. So what were your limitations in life before you got the stem cell therapy?
I couldn't go anywhere because I couldn't walk. And getting, even with the wheelchair, getting the wheelchair in and out of my car was a pain.
So you were in a wheelchair?
Oh yeah, I couldn't even put my left foot on the ground at all.
After your stem cell injections, called infusions, how long did it take before you were moving around again, before you were mobile?
2 days. That was it. And I took pain pills for 2 days after the infusion, and I didn't have to take one since then. I take pain pills sometimes now for my back, but I don't ever have to take them for my legs anymore.
And the discoloration in your leg, what you call the blackness like frostbite, when did that start to improve?
Right after the stem cells, that was when the whole black tip of my toe fell off. And it was just raw meat, the tip of my toe. And it grew, it even grew. I didn't think I was going to get a nail back. It even grew the nail back perfect. It works wonders.
So if I were to ask you how stem cell therapy changed your life, what would you say?
Oh, hey, it brought me back to life. I was pretty much useless and I couldn't walk. So getting in and out of the house was hard with the 3 steps out there and no railings, and yeah, it was rough.
So how has stem cell therapy changed your life?
The change in my life has been so drastic. When I was in the wheelchair and they were talking about cutting my leg off, I was thinking, I was kind of even hoping that if they had to take my leg off, I'd die in surgery. I didn't want to live that way.
When Dr. LaSala talked to you about stem cell therapy, did you have any idea that your turnaround would be this dramatic?
No, not really. I expected it to take a couple of years to do any good if it was going to work at all. I was still skeptical about it, but as quick as it worked, I was just amazed. And last time I went over across the lake, they took my pulse in my ankle, and it was still a 0.6 something. And when they started off, I had like a 0.002 pressure in my ankle.
So what has it meant to your family and your grandson to have you back?
When Gage was born, I wasn't getting around too good. And I was afraid to try and hold him, try to pick him up. I was afraid I'd trip and fall, or, you know, I was afraid to hold him. And now, at the parade, I worked up a sweat chasing his little butt up and down the front yard. When they had the St. Patty's Day parade out there, he wore me, his daddy, and his mama all out. They keep telling me I'm a walking miracle. And I am. It's a miracle that leg was saved.
Dr. Jose Miguel has given us a great explanation of the science of stem cells. From your perspective, as a physician and a healer, how have stem cells changed your world?
Well, it's changed my world significantly because, as I said before, we used to treat diseases by cutting things out and by removing things. It really touches your heart when you see somebody who can move, and all of a sudden they start moving a limb and they say, now, I'm not completely cured, but I can use my hand to move a wheelchair and I can move around. Or when somebody was unable to walk 3 or 4 steps and they tell you, I can walk 200 or 300 yards. Somebody who was disabled and now he's working in construction. You know? So it's very moving. And it's moving not only because of the results that you see, but because of the letters that you get from the patients, from the family members, the phone calls, those expressions of thankfulness. And it's really touching. It's something that really gets to you.
When you had this inspiration nearly 7 years ago, did you have any idea that you would be sitting here today talking about this kind of promise for the future?
You know, when I had this inspiration, like all inspirations, I think you have to see the mountain far away and think that you can climb that mountain. I never thought how big the mountain was going to be, but I knew I was going to get there. Now I see the mountain is bigger than I thought it was, but I think we're reaching to the top.
What would you tell people watching this who don't know about or understand stem cell research and therapy?
I would like to say, please, if you don't know anything about stem cells, listen, read, research, and you'll understand a lot of things. And you'll understand how it works, and you understand the promise that this provides for medicine and for the world.
Dr. LaSala, we've interviewed several patients who've had their lives transformed by stem cell therapy. Patricia, Bill, Rodney, and Dudley. If they were in this room right now, what would you say to them?
If the patients were here today, they will be hugging me. They love me. I love them too. We become friends, you know, after what happened to them. I don't think I have to say anything to the patient. Probably the patients will tell you more than what I would tell. Oh, goodness.
listened to some very dramatic medical stories today. Both Dr. LaSala and Dr. Mengel have told me of their hopes for treating many more patients in the future. But they both caution me that although some of these stories are dramatic, many patients, for whatever reason, have not experienced the same dramatic results. The research is still in its beginning stages, and there's no guarantee that all patients will receive the same outcomes. With your help, the research can continue. With your support, this new treatment can help change more lives. Call now, 888-272-3385.